This is Have to Know History. It's history you just have to know. Helen of Troy, the face that launched 1,000 ships, the woman whose beauty supposedly sparked the Trojan War. It's the stuff of legends. A wooden horse filled with Greek soldiers, Achilles and his famous heel, a city under siege for 10 long years, all because one man stole another man's wife? But here's the thing. What if the Trojan War wasn't about love at all, but trade, power, and Mycenaean muscle? What do the archaeology and the ancient texts really say about Troy, Helen, and the war that may or may not have happened? Was Helen really that beautiful? Did she even exist? Let's dig in. The classic story goes like this. Paris, a Trojan prince, visits Sparta, falls for or abducts Queen Helen, and sails back to Troy. Her husband, King Menelaus, is furious. He turns to his brother Agamemnon, who rallies all the Greek kings to sail across the Aegean and bring Helen home. For 10 long years, the Greeks besiege Troy. Achilles becomes the ultimate war hero until an arrow to the heel takes him down. And the war ends with the Greeks sneaking inside Troy in the belly of a giant wooden horse. Epic, romantic, tragic, and most of what we know comes from the Iliad, Homer's epic poem, written centuries after the Trojan War supposedly happened. But is any of it true? Here's where things get murky. According to the myth, the Trojan War started not with politics, but with a wedding. When the sea nymph Thetis married King Peleus, all the gods were invited, except Eris, goddess of discord. Big mistake. Eris crashed the banquet and tossed a golden apple onto the table with a note, "To the fairest." 3 goddesses claimed it: Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite. Zeus wisely refused to choose between them and passed the decision to a mortal, Paris of Troy, and he happened to be the world's most handsome man. Each goddess tried to bribe him. Hera offered him power. Athena promised him wealth and wisdom. Aphrodite offered him the most beautiful woman in the world, Helen of Sparta. Paris handed the apple to Aphrodite. Here's the problem. Helen was already married. Uh-oh. Helen, wife of King Menelaus of Sparta, was considered the most beautiful woman in the world. Paris sailed to Sparta pretending to be on a friendly trade mission. Menelaus welcomed him warmly, but soon had to leave on business. Bad idea. So Menelaus is going to leave his wife, the most beautiful woman in the world, alone with Paris, the most handsome man in the world? Probably didn't think that one through, or maybe he was just very trusting of his young wife. Talk about your all-time backfires. With Menelaus gone, Paris made his real reason for visiting clear to Helen. According to legend, Aphrodite's spell was already working on her. "Come with me to Troy," Paris said. Helen hesitated. She feared her husband's revenge, but admitted she didn't really love him. Menelaus was older, stern, and cold. Paris urged her on. "It's meant to be. The gods have arranged this." And Helen agreed. Together they grabbed gold and jewels and set sail for Troy. Cold move. Not only does Paris run off with the guy's wife, but they clean out the palace on their way out. That's like pouring salt in the wound. When Menelaus returned and found her gone, he called on his brother, Agamemnon, and the Greeks began preparing their 1,000 ships. That's the legend. But what do we actually know? Helen might not have been a real person at all. The name Helen sounds a lot like Hellas, the Greek word for Greece. And the Hellenes were the ancient Greeks themselves. Could Helen have been a poetic stand-in for Greece, or maybe a symbol for contested territory? Maybe this wasn't about a woman at all, but about power and control. In the late 1800s, archaeologists digging at Hisarlik in modern-day Turkey uncovered the ruins of a city with massive walls, layers of rebuilding, and clear signs of destruction. In one layer, Troy 7A, they found arrowheads, charred debris, and collapsed buildings. Sound like a war zone? It probably was. At the same time, the Mycenaeans, the likely Achaeans Homer wrote about in the Iliad, were expanding their influence across the Aegean. Maybe they didn't sail for love, but for control of trade routes into the Black Sea. And the plot thickens. Around this time, civilizations across the eastern Mediterranean were collapsing. Egyptian records talk about mysterious invaders called the Sea Peoples. Were they refugees, pirates, or Mycenaean warriors looking for new land? Maybe a combination of all. The Mycenaeans, Hittites, and Trojans, as well as the nearby Egyptians and Babylonians, were all part of a larger system, and when it fell apart, it reshaped the ancient world. Maybe Troy was just caught in the crossfire of a much bigger story. So, did Helen's face really launch 1,000 ships? Or was the Trojan War about wealth, trade, and power, like so many conflicts before and after? Here's what we do know. Behind the legends and heroes, there's usually a kernel of truth, and maybe more secrets still buried in the ruins. But that's a story for another time. This is Have to Know History. History you just have to know. Thanks for being here. Like, subscribe, and join me for more ancient intrigue, myths, and the surprising truths behind them.